everyone. Welcome to another House Rules Review. My name is Jonathan Dilfer. This is my daughter Evelyn.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk about Snowblind Race for the Pole. I thought I'd do a racing game first as I'm behind. I was supposed to do one of these every day this week. Things ensued. That didn't quite happen. But I'm going to try to catch up today. So Snowblind is an action-taking game, I guess you could say, where you are mimicking the original Arctic explorers that were trying to discover the South Pole and the four main expeditions that did that. So I'm going to kind of talk you through the game itself, just kind of give you a brief rundown of how it plays a little bit, and then also our thoughts on it. I played a couple of partial games and one full game where I lost. I also was looking over things again today from that last playthrough, and I think we played a rule wrong. So I'm going to talk about that and how that could be misinterpreted a little bit. But beyond that, let's get started. So one of the things I really like about Snowblind 2 is that it has this cool little sheet. If you're a history buff, I mean, I love things about the Titanic. You'll see that it has all these photos of the original expedition in the box, which I just think is really cool, really thematic. I mean, if you really wanted to, you can maybe even frame these and hang them up somewhere. They're that neat looking. And I really like that they did that in addition to the base rule book. So in the game, there are four main expeditions. There's Britain, there is France, there is the Netherlands, and Germany. And you basically, each player gets one of those. You can do that randomly. You can let people pick. It doesn't matter. All of the resources and everything that you get is the same. Evelyn, which one do you like the best? Do you like Britain the best, or France? Who would you be if you were going to pick somebody?
Probably Britain.
Probably Britain. I like to be Britain. Emily seems to like being the Netherlands. Their flag is kind of cool, but everybody gets a little ship that looks like this that goes on the board to represent your country, and then you get a matching flag. And the goal is to get your flag to the South Pole. Now, I'm going to tilt the camera down a little bit so you can see the board. I've already got it set up for 2 players. And Evelyn and I will go through about a turn or so to kind of show you some of the actions and how that works. All right, I think you can see most of the board that way. So on the board, and I try to set this up, usually I set it up facing you. I like to have this section, which is your goal is to get your flag down here, right? I like to have that facing the players. And this game actually isn't that big. We actually took this to a coffee shop locally, and it fit on a little coffee table fine, and we played it there. So you have this section here with all of your dice. And what you do on your turn is you choose one of these actions to do, and then you grab the appropriate dice, and you roll it. And there are basically cards in the box that tell you about what bad thing happens. Because when you take an action, whatever zone you ended in, that zone is where the bad effect takes place, and what you're rolling for exposure. Now exposure, you can see this card here is 1, 2, 3. That means everything's fine. If you roll a 4 and you have a guy by himself, like my captain is by himself here, he's got no buddies with him, he'd be exposed and I'd have to spend a supply. If I didn't have supplies to spend, I would turn him sideways to indicate he's like incapacitated.
Exhausted.
Or exhausted. If that happened again, he would die. As a note, if your captain dies, you lose the game. You're just done, so don't let that happen. If you roll a 5, even if you're with a buddy, you're still exposed. But if you have a tent, you're fine. If you roll a 6+, it doesn't matter. You're exposed regardless. Tents are you have one in your base camp here, and you can add them to the game with differing actions as well. When you do an action, then you take whatever that action is. Like in this case, with either of these red dice, you can move 3 crates and your captain. If you take the 6, if you take the 8-sided dice, you can also move an extra crate and a man, blue or yellow, with the captain as well during that same action. And then you roll that dice for exposure for whatever zone you ended your action in, right? And so then you would follow that little chart to determine what exposure took place. I'm going to try to set that right there. I know it's hard to see with the little bitty small. Now, each of these things have an action, and so everybody does an action. They roll for exposure. You go around the board, everybody does one action, and then you get to go again. So like say maybe let's say that I did this action as my first one, right? I don't have any exposure, I rolled a 3. And then let's say maybe Evelyn took this one, and she moved some crates from up here down with her captain and a yellow man, so she's got more guys here together, right? So she rolls. She got a 6. She loses a crate. Okay. Now back to me. If I take this dice, this lets me take 2 pink food, which basically signifies hunting, put them wherever I want. If I put them, say, here, for example, now I'm rolling both of the dice. The one I took for my first action and my other one. Because the idea is the more actions you're taking, the more risk is involved, because the longer you're staying out in the cold of winter, right? So now I'm rolling both dice for exposure. I rolled a 4 and a 5, and since I'm by myself, both of those impact me for exposure, so I lose those 2 food I just got. Or I could use the supplies too, but these are worth points at the end of the game, and they can move with me. Pink food are not worth points at the end of the game, and they don't move with you. They stay wherever you place them. So, and that's pretty much the gist of the game. You keep going like that with people taking dice and taking actions until either everyone has, like there's no more dice on the board, and or everyone has passed. Because you can pass and be done, and then you draw one of these weather cards, and that tells you something happens. Like this is a 4, so anybody who's by themselves in the furthest most space takes that exposure. So because my captain's furthest out, I would lose yet another crate for weather due to exposure. Evelyn would be fine since her furthest space is here. My flag moves with my captain after the action, so it should be up there. So I'm closer to the pole, but I've also got a lot less supplies and more risk, and she's kind of sitting pretty right now.
By the way, just a shout out. Make sure to come to the Christmas in July at Serenity Games.
She's right. Yeah, this is actually the reason we're doing this game is for a Christmas in July event we're doing at Serenity Games in Seminole, our local shop. So definitely check that out. But that's basically how a round would go. Now, each of these actions are a little bit different. You can read about them in the book, so I'm not really going to go over many of those. I don't want to do everything, but they are there. The symbology isn't difficult, but that's pretty much how a round goes. The main thing that I like about this game is the decision making that you have, because with Snowblind, it can be a really challenging game in the fact that if you make the wrong choice, it will hurt you. And the designers actually said that they intentionally designed it in such a fashion that there is no catch-up mechanism. There's no way for the guy who made a poor choice and fell behind and lost some guys to catch up easily. The only way to do that is to take more risk and to take more chances, just like it would have been in real life. Some of those expeditions fell behind of others, and they had to make extreme decisions to try to catch up. And that's your choice.
Because you can watching a survival show in there. Yeah,
like some survival shows you've seen. You can either make that choice and take those decisions, or you can bail out early. You can always, wherever you get your flag to, there's like a succession of points. The further you get, the more points you get. But you can always bail out early, because crates you have at the end of the game and guys that survive at the end of the game are worth points, and you tally those up. But if you lose your captain, you lose the game. And if you run out of guys and crates, you're not going to have any points left anyway. So at a certain point, it's almost best just to cut your losses. Maybe you didn't make it to the South Pole, but you made it close, and you went home. But that's your choice. So this game, it's really got some really crunchy decision-making in it. I like it a lot. It's just a really challenging game. The actions themselves aren't hard to see what to do. It's more just deciding when to do that and how much to do before you decide to maybe cut it off. And it's very short timed. The game is kind of random as far as how long it is. It can be anywhere from 4 rounds up to 6 rounds. And you don't know exactly how many there are going to be. You know you'll get at least 4 turns. But that 4th turn might be your last turn. Or the 6th turn might be your last turn. Or round, I guess. So that it can vary. And so you're always kind of in this rush of not only how much do I do, but how much do I push it before I try to head back. Because you have to get all your guys back to your ship for them to count for points. And if they're out in the wilderness still, they don't count for you. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Evelyn, was there any other thoughts you had about the game?
Well, I like this game. I think it will be a hard game. Some people who like hard games will want to buy this game. Some little kids may think it might be hard, but they'll learn it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we really like it. It's a neat, fun little game. Definitely check it out. Again, that's called Snowblind Race for the Pole. And if you get a chance to come out to our event, if you live locally, it's going to be at Serenity Games in Seminole on July 27th. We hope to see you there.
Florida.
In Florida, yeah. If you like what we're doing here, definitely check out some of the other videos. I'm going to have some links on here. Subscribe if you like. If you want to watch some children's videos for you kids at home, my daughter has her own channel she's doing, which is called Sunshine Squad. Definitely check it out. Until next time, keep gaming. We'll see you later.